Hello, and welcome to 10 Emotions, a true crime podcast. I'm your host Mamta, and this is where I talk about crimes that happen in India. Today, we are going to talk about something very powerful, something that's part of our history and our present. We are talking about caste. Long ago, caste wasn't about birth, it was simply about work, a division of labor, that's all. Some taught, some fought, some farmed, and some served. A simple rhythm, a quiet order to the world, you see, a way of life. But you know what happened over time? Those roles, that simple rhythm, it turned into something else. It became a set of very rigid identities. What began as a simple division of labor, slowly, silently, it became a system of control. And even today, centuries later, people, they are not judged for who they are, not for their character or their kindness, but for the caste they are born into. Sometimes these divisions, they don't just wound, they kill. You might be thinking, no, this doesn't happen anymore. Not in our cities, not in our times. But there's a line from a movie that I recently watched that holds a very brutal truth. A line that says, when it doesn't happen to you, you think it doesn't happen at all. And while researching for this episode, I came across one such story. A story that is so heartbreaking, so powerful. The story of a young couple whose only crime was falling in love across those very lines. This is the story of Nandish and Swathi. So, before we talk about what happened, about the darkness they face, I want you to just pause with me. I want us to really see Nandesh and Swathi, not just as a headline, no, but as people, as two young people with dreams and a simple life. Nandesh was 25. He was from a Dalit family in Sodagonnapalli, a small village near city of Hosur in Tamil Nadu. His parents were daily wage laborers. They worked tirelessly from sunrise to sunset, their hands rough, their backs tired, just to make ends meet. He was middle of three siblings, with an elder sister and a younger brother Shankar. Growing up, Nandesh loved to learn. He loved the idea of building a life through knowledge, through education. But poverty, you see, it has a way of cutting dreams short. When your parents are struggling just to put food on the table, when every single rupee counts, even the brightest children, they sometimes have to let go of what they hope for. As his brother Shankar said in an interview, though he studied well and wanted to pursue his studies, he had to start working. So Nandesh, he left school at class 8, but he didn't give up on life. He was a fighter. He trained through ITI and started working in Hosur. First in a tile shop and later in a timber mart, sending money home. Every rupee, every coin. It was a lifeline for his family. Friends remember him as a soft-spoken but very reliable, always ready to help and always thinking of his family first. And yeah, he had a sky blue t-shirt that becomes important later. That had a face of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of Indian Constitution, a huge figure for Dalit rights, and it had the slogan Jai Bhim and his village name right there on it, a real statement of his identity. And then there was Swathi, a 20-year-old from the same village, living just 100 meters from Nandesh home physically, but worlds apart socially. She belonged to the dominant Vanyar community, who owned nearly 2 acres of land, a very visible symbol of their social standing. Unlike Nandesh, Swathi had the privilege of education. She had just completed a Bachelor of Commerce degree at a college in Krishnagiri. To those who knew her, Swathi was intelligent and very ambitious. She took her studies very seriously, hoping to build a future for herself, a future beyond the strict expectation of her family and community, a future of her own making. Now, to understand why these two young people with so much life ahead of them had their lives cut short, we have to go back to somewhere around 2014. While Swati was commuting to college, she met Nandesh. What started as a simple conversation developed into a friendship, and then it blossomed into a deep and committed relationship. For 4 years, they nurtured a love that was direct challenge to everything their families and their society stood for. Just imagine the stolen glances, the whispered conversation in a busy market, the secret meeting. It was a beautiful but dangerous dance. As their relationship deepened, Swati saw in Nandish not just a label, but a person, someone with dreams, kindness, and shared vision for the future. They tried to keep this relationship a secret for 2 whole years, making sure no one knew. And in their hearts, they knew the price they would have to pay if their love was discovered. 2 years into the relationship, Swati's family suspected the truth, and their response? It was immediate, and it was violent. Swati's relative allegedly beat Nandish and threatened his family. Nandish's family, they were terrified for his safety. They tried to convince him to break things off. In an interview, his family said, I told him, Nandish, it won't work out. Our lives are too different. Please, for sake of our family, let her go. And for a time, Nandish agreed. He stopped answering her calls for days. He was so scared for his family. But it was difficult for Swati, who was madly in love with Nandish. In a desperate attempt to save their relationship, she got on a bus and went to see him, to confront him. After a lot of back and forth, she said something that would haunt everyone who heard it. Swati was convinced that if Nandish would not marry her, she would die. Hearing that, something shifted in Nandish. He could see the depth of love Swati held for him. Even after all the problems, she still wanted to be with him. And that's when he made a pact with her. A pact that still haunts his family and sealed his faith. He promised Swati that he would marry her. He told her, if we die, we'll die together. They were so in love. They were ready to face anything. They thought love was enough, and they continued their relationship in secret, holding on to their love in the face of a hostile world. On August 16, 2018, when Swati had just finished her BCom degree, she was home for a few days. The pressure from her family was intense, and she couldn't meet or speak to Nandish. So she took a brave big step. She left her home under the pretense of meeting her friends in Hosur and met Nandish. They went to a simple temple far from the village and got married. A beautiful, small ceremony for love so big. Later, in September, they also registered their marriage and rented a small one-room apartment in Hosur. For first few months, a part of them was still afraid. They stayed mostly inside their small house, as if their happiness was a fragile secret to be guarded. They were in bubble, yes, but that bubble was surrounded by fear. But as days turned into weeks, a sense of blissful normalcy became to settle in. They started to feel safe, to feel like they had truly escaped. Slowly, consciously at first, they began to live their lives. They went out. They did their own thing. For the first time, they might have felt they were safe. 3 months later, on November 9, 2018, Nandish and Swathi were out in Hosur to attend a public event, a road show which was also attended by actor-politician Kamal Hassan. It was a crowd of thousands, a seemingly safe place you think. But in that sea of faces, a relative of Swati spotted them. Then a single phone call that changed the course of life for this young couple. The young, naive couple who were thinking they were able to live a beautiful life were unaware of a fact that even after a month has passed, their families were still searching for them. Swati's family in particular was not going to let this quote shame go unpunished. The honor of their family and their caste was more important than their daughter's life and happiness. When they received the call, Swati's father, Srinivasam, and other relatives rushed to the spot. They confronted the couple, but not with anger, not initially. They used a tactic as old as time, deception. They promised to take them to the police station to resolve the issue. They told the couple that they have accepted their love and that a ceremony would be held, a family reunion, a new beginning. The couple, exhausted from months of living in fear, must have felt a surge of hope. They got in a car, a Tata Sumo, believing they were finally going home. While on the way to police station, the couple felt relieved and happy to be with their families again after so long. They started picturing what it would be like to live a fearless, normal life with the entire family. And that's when they noticed that the car took a different route, far away from the police station. A cold red must have settled over Nandish and Swathi. The promise of reconciliation was a lie. This was not a trip home, it was an abduction. Nandish, in a desperate final act, pulled out his phone. He managed to send one last frantic text message to his employer, Sanjay Patel. It was short, a plea for help. Anna, kidnapped in Kanakapura. But before the message could reach his employer, before someone could have helped them, their phones were taken away and switched off. The car started to speed, and the couple tried to convince Swati's father and relatives, but their fate was decided. After 150 kilometers, the car stopped. This was a remote location near Shivanasamudra Falls in Karnataka. What happened next? It is almost too horrific to contemplate. Police reports and forensic evidence tells a story of unimaginable brutality. The killers tied Nandish hand and feet. They beat him while Swati was forced to watch, helpless. They then threw his body, still living, into a roaring river. And then they turned to Swati. With no one to help her, her hands and leg were tied with her own dupatta. She too was beaten and thrown into the water, alive. And then the killer tried to erase all evidence. The bodies were left to the river, their faces disfigured to prevent identification. It was a cold, calculated act to wipe them from existence, to pretend their forbidden love had never happened. But they didn't count on one thing, that sky blue t-shirt. When Nandesh's body was recovered, the Jai Bhim on his t-shirt and the name of his village remained. It was a defiant statement of his identity that, even in death, refused to be silent. That t-shirt, that simple piece of cloth, was the key that unlocked the entire case. It connected the bodies back to Hosur, to a missing persons report filed by his family, and to the truth. All six accused, including Swati's father, were arrested. Their confession was a chilling echo of a society that values honor more than life itself. Nandish and Swati's story is a stain on our collective conscience. It's a reminder that we live in a world where a person's life can still be taken for the simple act of choosing who to love. The pain of the families left behind is immense. Shankar, Nandish's younger brother, spoke not just of his grief but of a greater injustice. In an interview, he said, "They did this out of caste rage. We want capital punishment for the killers. But more than that, we want security for our people. This should not happen to any other family." Their demands are simple: justice for the dead and safety for the living. The court case is ongoing, and we can only hope that the full weight of the law falls on those who committed this crime. But the real question is for us, for society. How long? How long will we allow invisible line of caste and creed to dictate who can love whom? How many more Nandishes and Swatis will have to pay the ultimate price for an honor that is nothing more than arrogance and prejudice? Their love story ended in a tragedy, but it also becomes a powerful testament. The silent witness to their murder wasn't a person, but an idea of equality and dignity printed on a t-shirt, an idea that their killers, in their rage, could not burn away. Thank you for listening. Let's remember Nandish and Swathi not just for how their life ended, but for how they lived. Until next time, take care of yourself and of your loved ones.